away from HOSA.
Yes, baby.
Oh, good, Miss Pittman again. Maybe we'll be able to see Miss Pittman.
All right, you ready?
So we can't see Miss Pittman.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep feeling. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Keep feeling. Yes?
Yes.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. All y'all do it. Go all the way to 42. I don't know why my camera doesn't turn on. Can you hear me?
We are having some very serious campus-wide
Can you
issues.
talk?
Can you hear me?
I don't hear you.
You don't hear me? Oh, gosh. All right, I'm on my way up. Hey,
Can you talk again?
do you hear me? No?
Yeah, I hear you.
I think it's our Wi-Fi. Something is going on today, and it happened last week too.
Oh,
We
So
hear
I
you now.
apologize that that the cameras are not working. It's a very strange thing that's happening on all of our laptops, and it could be because we got new laptops this year. Not sure. So sorry, Mr. James, that you can't see the kiddos.
No problem. I understand technology can always get in the way, so
It
completely.
sure does.
A year and a half into the pandemic and we're still having these problems.
Ms. Kent, your microphone is very, very low. I can just barely hear you.
Can you hear me better now?
42. That's better. Zacharias, what'd you get?
That's a little better?
What'd you get? Yeah, that's right.
Great.
If you counted all the way to 42, you should have gotten 7. You just have to be slow and steady, like a turtle. Slow and steady means no race. Ooh, division already? Look at all these beautiful models. Oh, beautiful. We will definitely go. Okay. Boys and girls, can you say hello to Mr. James and Miss Kent? They're from the University of South Florida. He's going to teach you a little bit today. So, Mr. James, we actually need to be off right at 1 o'clock. So, if you could speed through this as fast as you can, they have a test they have to take today.
Oh, okay. Hi, kids. I'm going to let Mr. James get started. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet everyone, even though, we're obviously not in person. Today, I'm here to talk about the respiratory system and kind of teach you more things about how our body breathes. All right, so the first thing that I wanted to get to was the word respire. What does it mean? Because oftentimes just knowing why a word means something helps me understand and remember, why things are called what they are. So respire actually comes from late Middle English origin and is composed of 2 parts, re and then the spire. So re means again, and then spire means to breathe. So put those 2 together, you get again and breathe. So we get respire in the respiratory system. And so how we breathe over and over and over again. So when we're breathing, what are we breathing in? What's inside of air, right? So we see a picture and normally we don't see anything in the air, right? It's invisible to the naked eye. But if you can imagine, like the sheet is outside and in the atmosphere, that is what air is. And within that air, there's different things. So mostly it's made out of nitrogen gas, and then followed by about 21% of oxygen, followed by even less of carbon dioxide and water vapor. And oxygen is what we normally associate with air because oxygen is what helps our body to breathe. And if there's one message that I wanted to bring up today is to never smoke because, our air has nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide, right? And smoking has other chemicals that you would never want to expose to your body. Okay, and that's why you only want to be breathing in pure air always. And it's very, very important to never ever smoke because it could later lead down to complications. And I've had patients who've been very sick because of their smoking habits. So there's one takeaway, just never to smoke, okay? So the respiratory system, doesn't only involve our lungs. When we talk about the respiratory system, there's the upper and the lower respiratory system. So the upper respiratory system here is represented by the color blue, and the lower respiratory system is represented by the color pink here. And it's important to kind of separate these two because they each have different functions. So our upper respiratory system, which involves our nasal inlet, which is just a fancy term for our nose, or our oral inlet, which is just a fancy term for our mouth, all the way down to the trachea. The function of our upper respiratory system is to deliver air to our lungs, okay? And then once that air reaches our lungs, the lower respiratory system, which consists of the bronchi, the secondary bronchi, as well as the lungs itself, that's where gas exchange occurs. That's where oxygen can be supplied to the rest of our body. Now, how does air itself move? Well, there's a muscle underneath our lungs here, as you can see, called the diaphragm. And the diaphragm moves differently depending on if you're exhaling or breathing out, or inhaling, which is breathing in. And so it moves up so that it's kind of squeezing our compartment in the lungs so that air can be exhaled or pushed out of our body. Whereas when we're inhaling, our diaphragm moves down, making more space so that air can come into our body. So then the next question is, what controls our diaphragm? Well, there's actually two main systems for how our body is able to control our muscle for breathing. So you may have noticed that if I ask you to take a deep breath, you can do that by yourself. You can control how you breathe. And if I tell you to exhale, you can also do that as well. But if I told you to not think about breathing, your body will still breathe because our diaphragm can be controlled by ourselves, but is also on at the same time because it's very important to breathe. So our body makes sure that, that we don't stop breathing. Similar to our heart, we don't think about, we don't try to control our heart to beat. It just continues to beat. So this is just a more detailed look at the upper respiratory tract, which is functions to deliver air to our lungs. So kind of going more into detail, we see our nose, this is how it looks inside, our mouth all the way down to the larynx and to the trachea. And then this is our lower respiratory system where we can, where our body can perform gas exchange. And so you see here the trachea going down onto our bronchi here that splits into two. Each bronchi supplies its own lungs. So there's a right lung here and then a left lung here as well. And then as you can see, it continues to spread more and more as we move lower down the lower respiratory tract into these branches here, right? And there's millions of these branches that eventually terminate into what we call the alveoli. So these small sacs are actually at the end of each of these bronchioles over here. And the reason why they're important is because this is where oxygen is able to be transferred to our blood vessels, which carries oxygen to the rest of our body. And I apologize for the blurriness of this image, but this was to kind of give you a better idea of where exactly our alveoli are. But this is supposed to show a magnification because normally it's very hard to see these small alveoli, but know that they're there and they're doing a very important function for our body. And when we're talking about the lungs, we can't forget about the heart, because the lungs and the heart work in conjunction together. So the lungs bring in the gas, whereas the heart, once the gas is brought in, the heart can pump the gas to the rest of our body. And it does this by its connection to the lungs. So there's multiple arteries and veins that connect our heart to the lungs so that gas can be transferred. And here's just another picture just showing the heart itself. You can see all the many blood vessels. And so once this heart pumps, it pumps the new gas from the lungs to the rest of our body. And here's just another representation. So our heart is pumping blood. So this is important for when we exercise, because when we exercise, we need to breathe in and breathe out a lot more, right? So we're breathing in more oxygen so that we could power these muscles and they can move and we want them to when we're exercising. And you know, oxygen is not only supplied to the muscles as well, but to the rest of our body too, to your brain, to your heart, everywhere in your body needs oxygen, which is why breathing is very, very important, and it's controlled automatically by our body. So for our next interactive, our activity, I'd like you to draw out, it doesn't have to be yourself, but if you want to include yourself, you can. But I'd like you to just draw this simple diagram just so that we could better remember what the different components of the respiratory system is. So we could start with the nose and then the mouth, going down to our trachea and then to our lungs and our diaphragm. And I'd like you to at least label where the trachea is and where the two lungs are and the diaphragm as well, okay? And once you do that, maybe we can share your pictures with the rest of the class.
Kind of draw that. Can you put the PowerPoint back up? Raise your hand if you remember what this part is called. Cilia. The end of the T, like cilia. Trachea. So we're just gonna, because scientists label their drawings. What goes down the trachea? Only cilia and center. Air. And what is it in the air that our body needs? Oxygen. Very good. So this is where you're breathing in through your nose or your mouth. The air is coming down the trachea. And what is it going into? Raise your hand if you know what these things are called. These pink sacs, like things. You have two of them. And the air goes in them. And you breathe in and you breathe out. Kind of balloons. Lungs. How many do you have right now? Two. Two. So there's your lungs. And then he said he wanted one more thing labeled. Do you know what it was? The end of the T. It's this thing down here below your lungs. I think people use this a lot when they're singing. Close. It's diaphragm, but it is like diagram. But this is how you spell it. Diaphragm. And that's below your lungs. It's one piece. Kind of like that. Bridge. Yeah. And does your drawing have to be perfect? No, mine is not perfect, but I get an idea. My trachea connects to my lungs, and then I have my diaphragm. Part of my respiratory system, right? What is RE? Zacharias. What does that mean? You told me right there. RE means again. So this is to breathe again. Respiratory system, which is something that we're going to be working on in third grade. The other grades do not work on the respiratory system in third grade. Can kind of give me a thumbs up. You drew that in your next notebook, sir? I hope you didn't draw your snap journal. Not you, I'm talking to Raymond. You don't even have this out. Raymond. You don't have this book out. You can't draw it in there. I think we're pretty good, Mr. Hart.
Okay, so it looks like we have a little bit of extra time. I don't know how much spent. I could answer questions if students have any. Or we could give a little bit more free time, I guess, depending on whatever the teacher or the students want.
Yeah, we have a math test anyway, sometime. It works out good if we finish a little early. What do y'all say? We appreciate you helping us grow our brains about the respiratory system.
Great job. And what I'll do is I can send some resources afterwards with a thank you note. And thank you, and I'll send along James's excellent PowerPoint so you can have that too, Miss Pittman.
Okay.
And
Thank you very much.
Thank you
No
for
problem.
having
I'll
us.
leave it online. Yep.
And
Thanks,
Have
Mom.
a good
we
day.
hope you all have a great day. Thank you.
Okay,
And good luck with the Zoom business.
thank you. We need it.
Yeah, I know that sometimes this happens, and we have this problem too at USF, so we totally understand. Next.
Okay,
next
thank
week
you.
will be better. Thanks.
All
Thank
right.
you, James.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great, James.
Thank you.
so much. Good
Thank
luck
you.
with the application.
All right. Thank you. Take
And
care.
I'll speak with Isha about, so don't worry about the 27th. You'll be on your own.
Okay. Gotcha.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have
Have
a
a
great
good day.
day.
You too. Bye.